just shut up and let me enjoy this pain. I don't want anything to numb it. I don't want anything right now. Because what I had done was I just, in my mind, and people will take this wrong and take it as wrong as you want to, I don't really care. I had just climbed a mental wall that was amazing. And I didn't want anybody to take that pain away from me. I never want to feel it again. But what it did was it showed me what is possible. And that's what set the new stage for me. That's when I realized, oh man, I've really been underachieving my entire life. Because a lot of people will, and some of these motivational people out here, it's the funniest thing in the world to me. They'll go and say, when you wake up in the morning, pound your chest, look at yourself in the mirror and do all this. I hope it works. What works for me is that everyday resume, the things I know I've accomplished, the things I know I've done, real hard work, the real calluses on my mind, the real calluses on my hands. That's it. You don't need to pound your chest in the mirror anymore if you have that. Never pick the easy road. Never. And it always goes back to kind of that hero mentality. Never pick the easy road ever in your life. That is the one road that is doom. It is doom. If you want something like 6-minute abs, all these different things, if you want it so fast, you may achieve what you wanted, but you want the permanent fix. The permanent fix comes from the hard road. The hard road gives you permanent results. The easy road gives you the quick fix. You will go back to where you started on the easy route. That hard route is so permanent that it ends up callousing you everywhere. Everywhere.
You keep a six-pack forever.
You keep it.
You keep it.
Because you know the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
And the last one is, when you get to where you want to go in life, and you finally get there, you finally reach that point, and you're there, and you're happy as hell, realize this: you're not there yet. When you get that feeling that you arrived, be afraid.
Right.
Be truly afraid, because now you start to do this.
Slowly die.
Slowly die. Either you're getting better or you're getting worse. You're not staying the same.
Yeah.
So when you get to where you think the journey is ended, and you're sitting back and you're like, I arrived, I'm on Mount Everest. I climbed 29,029. The best thing to do is fall back down that damn mountain as fast as you can and start climbing.
Find the next climb.
Find the next climb.
Yeah.
When you've gone that deep inside yourself, and all those feelings of pain that I had, I was in the worst pain of my life, ever. And some people think, man, you're just crazy. No, when you've done that, and you've figured out so much on your own, and all that pain and discomfort I had in that tub, laying there, passing out, everything, was confirmation of what I just figured out. I just figured out the code. I figured out a code that many people aren't looking for. And I wanted to be numb. I want that feeling. This was confirmation. This was like a scientist's notes. The notes were here. The notes were all this feeling. It was a confirmation. And no one at that time could understand what I just done. I cracked the code to human potential in myself. And I was still like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable what I just did. So it's that quiet place.
Wow.
It's that place by yourself. It's those hours and years and decades by yourself in the grip of life. When life has you by the throat and choking you out, and you're sitting there calm because you're trying to figure it out. You're not panicking. You're not quitting. You're not throwing in the towel. You're saying there's a way around this. And when you figure it out, when life has you gripped in a vice and you can figure that out, that's when you overcome. How am I going to respect you? So you have to be a hard worker, period, dot. You got to work your ass off. That's where I gain respect for you. So if you're working hard every day, now you have an opinion in my eyes. But if you're just a guy who talks shit and you live this life of talking shit, come on, dude. I understand one thing. You're just talking shit. But if I see you every day of your life trying to be better, every day going through all the wickets to be better, you got my attention. I respect you now. So respect is the first thing. I had to tell this young man or woman that the only way I believe, and this is just my experience in life, the only way you're ever going to get to the other side of this journey is you have got to suffer to grow. To grow, you must suffer. And some people will get it and some people won't. But they have to see what their journey is to start their journey. Several people live to be 100 years old and they have great lives and they have great kids. Their kids go to college and all sorts of stuff. But somewhere in their life, there was a point where they had a decision to make. They can go left or right on this path. Left was the easy route. Right was the hard route. A lot of people take the easy route. And they had a good life that way, but the better life was going to the right side. And you may have 20 years of pain and suffering to get past it, but a lot of us die never truly starting our journey. And I would tell this young person, you got to start your journey. It may suck, but it will come out the other side where you're coasting. So let's say I'm training for a 100-mile race and I get to mile 50.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and like everybody else, my mind gets soft. Why? Because I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm not some damn, hybrid creature that was formed from the heavens above. No, not human. I suffer. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So my mind starts to get weak and we start to forget about how badass we are. I call that the cookie jar, but it's not about the cookie jar right now.
Yeah.
This is about self-talk.
Yeah.
But the cookie jar kind of goes to self-talk too.
Yeah.
It's a piece of it. So basically what I do here is you have to make sure that your mind doesn't become spastic. When it's suffering, when it's in pain, all it wants to do is find the easy way out, which is usually quit. If you quit, the pain goes away immediately.
Yeah.
You gotta give yourself enough energy and fuel in your mind to stay just a little bit longer so you can talk yourself into staying for the whole thing. That's the whole thing I talk about, winning the battle in the morning. So every morning I wake up, I believe in winning the battle against yourself. People say, why do you say that? Because there's a lot of things you can control. When you wake up, I talk about making your bed. Make your bed, make sure your house is clean, make sure you get your breakfast, make sure you shower, shave, whatever you're doing, control that. Don't hit the snooze button. All these things are very important. That's been told a lot of times. Why don't you hit the snooze button? Because you wake up already failing. You're already behind the power curve. So what happens when you hit the snooze button? You may not make your bed. You may not do your hair the way you want it. You may not pick the right clothes out in the morning time. And I go back to this real quick. Remember how you had a job interview for a job? We've had several of them in our lives. What did you do the night before that job, weeks before the job interview, when you knew you had it? You prepared you had a bowl out for your oatmeal, your cereal, whatever you had in the morning time. Your coffee cup was out. Your clothes were laid out. You studied, you rehearsed, you were ready. You brought your best self. You were going to war with yourself because you wanted that interviewer to see your best self. You won. You got the job. After a few months in that job, you look around, I got the job. You start to back off. The clothes aren't out. You're not ready. You're hitting the snooze button. You don't get up on time anymore. You realize that you can still have this job and not be your best self. The interview you is gone. Your job is gone. You have your job, but the interview you is gone. So winning the battle in the morning time is just that. It's that you wake up in the morning time and you own all this stuff, because once you leave your house, the world then gets at you. Well, I believe that you have to build belief. Belief is like, there's an after school special belief where the mom says, believe in yourself, and that's all great, but there's also a built belief. And the built belief is one where you are constantly, like for me, I came from a bad place. How I build belief is through the daunting tasks I put myself through. So that's proof positive that I can. So it correlates. And that's how this piece of kid I once thought I was built belief by saying, I was in 3 Hell Weeks. I went to Ranger School. I tried out for Delta Selection.
Undeniable stack of proof.
That is proof. So whenever you think you can't, the confidence comes from the thing that you built. You must build belief. You must build confidence. It can't be like, hey, I'm gonna go knock that shit out. You gotta look over here and say, I can knock it out. It's belief, and it's built on what you put in to yourself. You have to want it. You have to want to be a stronger version of yourself. I can't give you that. That's something that you have to want. You have to have a desire and a hunger and a dog in you that wants to become a stronger human being. Once you change one thing, your mindset, you can attack everything. And I find it fascinating. I'm fascinated because I'll be in these moments. I put these guys on some pedestal.
Yeah. Which people do with you.
They do with me, and they shouldn't. And I was this guy who was a piece of shit looking at these, oh my God, how are you guys this amazing? But once I worked my way up there, I said, my God, man, we can all compete. Let's go. So do I like suffering? I like suffering in the way that is competitive.
Yep.
That brings out the absolute best in me and in everybody else. So like I want to see a man be defeated. I want to see a man get broken and say, F you. I love these men. These men I love, but there's very few of them. There's very few of them. And there's very few that are willing to go there more than once. A lot of people, even people who've gone through special ops, it kicks out of them to a point where in their mind, what got me bad in pararescue was when I was going through it, I said, I'm only gonna do this one time. And so many people in special ops, whether they believe it or not, in anything, special ops in anything, that's hard, I'm only doing this one time. Once you say that, you f yourself. So you wanna be normal. So you just wanna be like everybody else that roams the world, not knowing the power that's in them. Being fine with being mediocre. You wanna go back to who you were, huh, David? I'm like, f that, man.
And you have that conversation with yourself every day?
Not every day, it's those bad days.
Yeah.
It's those bad days. I see a whole bunch of people walking around out here who have no idea how talented they truly are. Now I'm talking about talent, like some God-given ability. Talent that sometimes you have to hone, you have to work on, and you have to harness yourself. And they just walk around just on their phones, just clueless to how powerful they are. Once you figure out that you're in a race amongst billions of people that live in this world, you're in a race by yourself. You have a purpose, and it's your purpose, not everybody else's purpose. It is your purpose and only your purpose, and it's your race. So then you're like, hey man, I'm doing my thing. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. What's next? There's no longer these small increments to get through life. Because once you figure out why you're here, it just becomes a process.
Successful people see opportunity in every failure. Normal people see failure in every opportunity. Both are right, only one gets rich. The goal should be for you to be able to perform whether you're in the middle of a war zone, whether you've not had any sleep, whether you've done whatever, right? That I want to be able to work like this and then build myself off the top of that with, oh, I'm great. I managed to get my morning walk in and I managed to train and I managed to do all the rest of it. But there's a degree of fragility that comes with over-optimization because people no longer feel like they're sufficiently robust to do this stuff. Use absence to increase respect. The more you are seen and heard from, the more common you appear. If you are already established in a group, temporary withdrawal from it will make you more talked about, even more admired. You must learn when to leave. Cultivate value through scarcity. What do I think is productive that isn't? Calls, Slack and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Staying in on weekends, sitting at my desk when I'm not working. What is productive that I don't realize? Dinners with new people, attending events, travel, reading. Personal observation. You get absolutely better returns at the top ends of achievement because oftentimes assets pool to the winners. The problem is, to achieve the highest levels, you have to give up proportional amounts of the things you hoped the achievements would get you. There comes a time when the hard work you have to do is learning that you can't work any harder any longer, and that you have to change what got you here to what will get you to where you want to go. You can work to get anything you want, but you have to sacrifice the other things you want to keep it, and that's sometimes harder than the work. You cannot wish for a strong character and an easy life. Each is the price of the other. What if what you're going through isn't hard? What if you're just sensitive? You want to do this because you think that it's good for you, because you believe that it's good for you, because you care about yourself. They want to have good outcomes from the things that they do in life. You don't need to lambast yourself because you don't do a thing that is perfectly designed to make you feel good. Okay, like you missed 3 days in a row. We get back on the horse, we go again. Discipline. Whatever negativity is consuming your thoughts probably won't matter in 3 months' time. In 3 months' time, you won't remember the corrosive texture of your mind, or the boring, repetitive things that you thought, or maybe even what you were worried about. But all of that time that you spent worrying will have still passed. So you are sacrificing your joy and presence in the moment for a problem which you won't even be able to recall in the future. So immortality is literally the only life where such flippancy with the days that you're alive for is acceptable. Problems are a feature of life, not a bug. There will never come a time when you have no problems. What? Did you think that you would just wake up one day and you're going to cease having problems? Like completing a video game and leveling up to a map where there's nothing there. That is never going to happen. Your problems will change, sure, but having problems is going nowhere. Dealing with problems is the cost of doing business as a human. It's not a personal curse on you. The fastest growth periods are often the most miserable. If you want progress, get used to pain. The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. The hardest you've ever worked is the hardest you've ever worked. Every new challenge shows you a new territory you were scared of but survived. Every time you break a new limit, you now know you have the capacity to handle more than you ever did before. It's inverse PTSD, like workload exposure therapy, that teaches you, oh, I've been here before and I didn't die. This is okay.
So where does motivation come from? Motivation comes from deprivation. So let me explain. So when are you more motivated to eat, drink water, sleep? When you're hungry, thirsty, and tired. That's when you're the most motivated. Have you ever finished a big meal and been like, man, I could go for another pizza? Probably not. Have you drank a big gallon of water and been like, I don't want any more fluids? Of course not, because you're not deprived. And so when you're full, you don't want it anymore. After you finish Thanksgiving dessert, you're stuffed. Are you still hungry? No. After you drink a bunch of water, do you want more? No. So what does this have to do with motivation to win and make money? I told you, I'll wrap it. I'll move it, right? Because by this logic, wouldn't all poor people be motivated since they're deprived of money, right? That would make sense. But we know that's not the case, because the people who make the most money are the ones who keep wanting to make more. So here's why. You know when you're tired, hungry, or thirsty, you perceive a gap. And your motivation is proportional to your deprivation, how much you don't have, right? Very hungry, like this guy is much hungrier than the person who's just like, maybe I'll have dinner on the way home. And so here's why money motivation is more complicated than hunger or thirst or being sleepy. With money, deprivation is not physiological, it's psychological. You only feel poor if you perceive a large gap between where you are and where you really want to be. So let's say you're at $5,000 a month in income, and your desire is to get to $10,000 a month. Fair enough? Cool. Now let's say this guy is doing $1 million a month in income, but he wants to get to $10 million a month in income. Relative to their goal, one guy is closer. He's only half of his goal. The other guy's 1/10 of his goal. Who's more deprived? Hang around 5 people with 10 times the net worth that you have, and you'll feel poorer than you ever did when you were poor around poorer people than you.
When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And I think pain moves people far more effectively than pleasure does. Like the easy way to prove it is like point a gun at someone's head and you have absolute compliance and they will do what they need to do, right? Automatically, just like that. Like death is the great motivator and the gun just reminds you. And so I think that if you can create the figurative gun to your head of the pain that you're experiencing, and then I'm a big fan of future casting out negative scenarios. So people talk about like positive visualization. I prefer negative visualization, which is what if I keep doing what I'm currently doing for the next 10 years? What will my life look like then? That usually takes my current pain and then just magnifies it. And then that allows me to get my action threshold high enough that it goes over the edge so that I can take that first move. And so if you know what the inputs outputs are of what you need to do, the guy who has the little quote on his wall, and you figure out whatever fuel you've got, not the one you wish you had, but the one you've got, and you use that to do the first input, you've crossed the line. You're in the game.
Whenever I get to a low point where I think, why do I even bother? I just remind myself, this is where most people stop, and this is why they don't win. And this relates to another one, which is a reminder for the gladiators in the arena who feel beat up and scarred with no hope in sight. Building a business is hard. Hard feels shitty. This is what hard feels like. And this is why most people can't do it, but you can.
It won't get harder. Like this is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons are going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But in the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time. Because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go like get someone no one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot, like no one can work out for you. Doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, like it feels so painful because you're like, you look around to see who can help you and then you're like, fuck, it's me again. And I think getting comfortable with the idea that each of these things, kind of like Slumdog Millionaire, if you've seen that movie where I'll give you the TLDR. He goes through his entire life of randomness and he gets on a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire version in India. And it has 12 questions to make $1 million. And from only 12 random experiences in his life that seemed meaningless at the time, was he able to answer all of the questions and then ultimately win. The skills that you develop along the way, like Steve Jobs learning calligraphy that then became Apple fonts that, transformed how we type. Those early days, that little trench winning in the weeds, oftentimes gives you these huge advantages later on because you have more context than anyone else. And so rather than lament them and hate the fact that you're going through it, remembering that these will be arrows that you put in the quiver that you're going to be using to slay the future bigger dragons. And so expecting it to be easy is what makes it much harder than it ever is.
It's not about coming up with the plan or doing the plan. It's sticking with the plan, right? You can beat most people at anything if you just stick with it for a year. If you're willing to suck at something for 100 days in a row, then you could beat most people at most things. The bar for excellence has never been so low. And so most of your competition quits after the first sign of difficulty, the first impasse on the mountain where they don't immediately get it, because they've never known what hard feels like. And so you having to figure something out, the unknown is the hard part. The figuring it out is the hard part.
Most of the time in your 20s, you have no idea what you want. But knowing what you need to do to work and move ahead is fairly straightforward. And so you can take the known and make progress on the one that you have high confidence that you can make progress on. And then along the way, gain perspective on what are the things that are actually important to you in your life. And you may find out often that there are far fewer of those things than you really originally thought, because what you thought live them up in your 20s was actually your mom and your 2 homies who are both mediocre, and you don't care about their opinion now when you're 30 anyways. But what a waste of a life it would have been to, quote, live up your mom's dream or your friend's dreams to then only get to your 30s and realize you didn't live it up and you also didn't work it up. And now you have neither. The only thing that you can do is win so big that all of them constantly compare themselves to you. and then you'll forget they exist. And that's when he said, success is the only revenge. He's like, it's not the best revenge. He's like, it's the only one. There's no other revenge. Because everything else is petty. Everything else does show that you were thinking about these people all day long, which means they win by default. He's like, all you can do is think about your goal and winning. He's like, and when you win, that's when you become so big that they shrink into irrelevance. You cast a shadow that no one even can see them behind you. People who are most successful, a lot of times, it's not that they necessarily have more willpower. They find other ways to reward themselves. And so he's like, the more skills you have, the more ways you have to reward yourself. And so somebody can extend how long their time horizon is because they do gamify it. So people who don't have the skills of figuring out ways to reward themselves in the meantime can't make it the whole way. But that's like when you're doing cardio and you're like, okay, it's 5 times 5 to get out of here, right? You create micro games within the longer game to keep yourself going.
A lot of suffering that we incur is optional. It mostly happens in our own mind, things that never actually occur in reality.
The hard part about the plan is sticking to the plan. Like, the plan wasn't bad. Your first plan was good because it's easy to go say, I'm going to work out 3 days a week for the next year. And it's a good plan.
Pretty good plan.
It's a pretty good plan. And the interesting thing is that, like, a mediocre plan that's stuck to always outperforms an amazing and perfect plan that you never stick with to begin with. And I know this obviously from the fitness world, but it applies to everything. And so, like, the stick to it muscle is the one that you have to flex. And that's why, like, if you're going through things, especially in the earlier days, like I remember I used to start and stop, and I try this thing, I try that thing. It's normal because you haven't been reinforced enough of sticking with something, right? But the thing is like, you have to stick it out long enough that you get that first carrot, you get that first cookie. And then all of a sudden, everything that you did to get there, you're like, oh, more of that will get me more cookies. And then it just becomes this self-perpetuating cycle, and then you get addicted to work.
The more you do, the more you realize you can. And so it's like you prove to yourself in some way that you get a positive reinforcement loop that, like, if I spend an extra 50% longer on this, I get even more positive feedback. And so in some ways you could say that I've just become addicted to that loop, which is that the more obsessive I become about anything, the more positive feedback I get on a longer time horizon. And that's the part that most people struggle with.
If you want to achieve a goal, you're either going to have to accept boredom or pain. And the bigger the goal, the more of both you'll get. When I started my gym, I actually lived with 6 other people in one house. The thing is like, I was doing that when I was making like 20 grand a month take home. There's always trade-offs. And the trade-off for me of living in that condition was that I could invest in the dream and build the business that I had at the time. Now I could look back because I ended up losing everything, a few years later. You get this negative cycle of like, all of that suffering was for nothing. But it wasn't for nothing because I learned all these skills along the way. You also can't operate from the perspective of like, I might lose it all in the future, which means everything that I do today is not worth anything. Because like, you're gonna lose 100% of everything the moment you die. So trying to say that you might lose something in the future is a reason not to do something is ridiculous. You're gonna lose everything at some point. You cannot wish for both strong character and an easy life because the price of one is the other. When I think about pain, I think about what thing am I paying for right now? And is that thing something that I want? And if so, it reframes the pain as the price of the thing that I want.
One of the easiest ways to have more money is to work more hours. And you're like, how is that possible? Well, when you work more hours, it actually kills 2 birds. One is that you actually make more money when you work more hours. But on top of that, you don't spend money because you have less time to spend it. And so every hour of work is a net positive in 2 directions. So it saves you money you're not spending and makes you money. And so you want to find those little twists that you can make in your investments of time and money that are outsized. It's not just that you gain, you also stop the loss. I've always been willing to bet big on me. And so a lot of you guys are trying to like bet big on Dogecoin or some meme thing or like some get rich quick. And I promise you, the guys who have all the money know how to do it better than you. And if you have your last $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 that you're like, what do I do with it? Bet on you, because you'll never sell you. You're a long-term hold, right? And so if you get better, you guarantee the win. And every investment you make compounds. You guarantee compounding because every skill stacks on top of other skills.
There's this line that I heard David Goggins say, I'm David Goggins, bit. I remember him saying it, and I thought to myself, like, you want to be able to say that in the mirror to yourself and not laugh at yourself. And the only way that I can do that is know that when no one's watching, I work harder than when they're watching. And thinking about it like that has given me this persistent and ever-present scorecard or third party that's like, no one's watching, which means now you have to work because otherwise you're full of shit.
We are confident in something, that it means that we believe we have a high probability of achieving whatever the prediction is, right? So like, how strong is the prediction we have? Well, how do you make predictions? You usually use a basis of data. And so if our past is the data set that we have, then we can be like, if I've worked out every day for 4 years, and then somebody comes up to me and is like, dude, you're just so like confident about working out, or it just seems like you're so certain. Like, how are you so motivated? All this stuff. It's like, I'm pretty confident I'm gonna go to the gym because I have gone to the gym every day for 4 years. I think confidence, if you're wearing it, doesn't feel like confidence. It feels obvious.